All right, everybody, hello and welcome back to another video with Wholeo Awakening and Thunder Dragon Neigong. It's Josh here with you today again, and today we're going to be talking about another one of the core concepts of these Eastern practices, and that is yoga. Easily the most well-known and popular of the Eastern disciplines, but just as the ones we've been discussing in this series, very, very misunderstood, very misapplied in many situations by many people. Some well-meaning and just simply ignorant, and others intentionally corrupting it for profit or personal gain or to support their agenda. Uh, so in this video, what we're going to be doing is going through a quick breakdown of what is, again, a massive topic, just like the others, um, just to shed a little light on the traditional practice of yoga, some different varieties and styles, some of the key principles that serve as the foundation that underpins what yoga truly is and how it was originally practiced and intended. Um, Before we get in, as usual, make sure that you check out all the links below for additional information, educational articles, videos, classes, courses, and all that. And be sure to like, subscribe, and follow whatever is the applicable action wherever you're watching this to be notified of new materials as they come about. With that said, let's go ahead and get started with yoga, the path of union. Now, what is yoga? Now, this, again, yoga being easily the most well-known of the Eastern practices, amongst such being Tai Chi, qigong, Neigong, Eastern alchemies, all these things. Yoga is easily, far and away, the most practiced, the most well-known, particularly in the West. So pretty much everybody who's involved in these sort of things knows yoga means union, the joining of the individual soul with the universal source. It is not just exercise practiced in its traditional sense, that is, but a way of returning to the truth of who we are. It is the path of returning to the true self. The word itself means to yoke or to unite together. It's a spiritual discipline, not just physical, even though it's most commonly practiced as just a physical exercise, a method of doing fancy stretch work, really. But when practiced properly in a traditional context, it is a spiritual discipline. Uh, it is the path to inner peace, clarity, and liberation. As in most of the Eastern practices that have roots in religious systems such as Hinduism, Buddhism, which yoga is practiced popularly in both, uh, there is the idea of returning to the original true self, laying aside the clutter and attachments that have come upon us throughout life, and reaching a liberation of our desires and attachments to these things, and ultimately the suffering that comes through that. We can get into those topics specifically as they pertain to those religious systems in other videos, but for now, these are the general concepts that apply to most uh, of the Eastern practices, and particularly yoga and its many different forms and varieties. The ancient roots of yoga. The earliest forms of yoga emerged over 5,000 years ago from India and were passed down through sacred scriptures, mystics, and yogis, most popularly through the Vedas and the Upanishads. Patanjali's Yoga Sutras are some of the most well-known uh, texts on the discipline and really serve to codify the path. The goal, as I said a moment ago, is the realization of the self, the Atman. Notice the self here I've capitalized because this is one of the big points of misunderstanding that happens amongst modern yoga practitioners, and where they can really run the risk of going astray in their practice when they do seek to go beyond just doing stretches and actually get into some of the more discipline of the system, is this idea of realizing the self. Oh, we're uniting with the true self. Many people mistake this, and this I think is a product of our modern, uh, frankly, narcissistic culture that we have. To realize the true self is to become comfortable with who I am and to be able to live my life the way I want to live it. No, that is not what realization of the self means. Realization of the self is not to take pride in how you live your life or what your causes might be in life, what your various proclivities might be in various areas of life. Realization of the self is to purify and set aside the self, lowercase, and to return to the self, uppercase. This is to release attachments to all of these desires and opinions and proclivities that we accumulate in life. To release our attachment to these things so that we are able to, sure, live our lives, enjoy our lives, but not to grasp to them, not to grasp to these concepts, not to identify with any particular thing, not to become imprisoned to our own egoic self. This idea of I am this, I identify as this, this is what I'm known as, this is what I like, this is what I want to live as, this is what I want to be known for. All of these things that are attachments that separate us from the union, the yoga, with the true way, the Tao, the divine, uh, our true highest self, which is to be peace and contentment with the totality of nature. We could go into this a lot again, but we don't want to make this into a big rant on uh, the misuse of yoga, the misuse of the spiritual path in our modern day. But the idea here is the realization of the self, the true self, the Atman, that which is beyond and primal to the attachments that we might form here in life. So one of the easiest ways to go through a quick rundown of what yoga is about and how it is traditionally practiced is to look at what's called the Eightfold Path, the Ashtanga, made famous by Patanjali, Patanjali's Ashtanga, the Eightfold Path of Yoga, which is a series of 8 limbs that are designed to progressively get us closer to the ultimate goal of yoga, the union with the divine. Classical yoga offers a ladder of 8 steps, each one leading inward toward stillness, insight, and union. Now, while these steps are fairly well known to most, at least moderately serious practitioners of yoga, they are very poorly practiced by most practitioners. In fact, only 2 or 3 of these 8 limbs are done with any real regularity in modern yoga practice, being the postures, the asanas, and the pranayama, the breath work. Most of the others are ignored either in part or entirely, particularly the first 2, interestingly. Where do we begin our practice? The yamas, the moral disciplines. Anybody who has seen modern yoga, especially things that you might see online advertising it, knows that they have not adhered to this principle. The niyamas, personal ethics. Here again, many modern practitioners fall woefully short in this regard. Then come the asanas, the postures, which we're all familiar with. Then pranayama, the breath regulation. Then these first 4, prepare the body, prepare the mind, prepare the vessel, so that we can then go to the second set of four, which takes us toward true meditation, true union. And this is pratyahara, the withdrawal of the senses, dharana, the concentration, jhana, the meditation, and then samadhi, the absorption, or what we would call enlightenment, which is simply the being in the presence of the true self, in the presence of the divine. So let's break down each of these fairly quickly. First, the yamas and the niyamas, the ethical foundation of yoga. Again, this is the part that nobody wants to do. Yoga begins with how we live, through kindness, truth, and discipline. The inner journey must be rooted in outer harmony. First off, we have the yamas, which really are guidelines for how we conduct ourselves in our external environment. We have ahimsa, which is non-violence. We do not seek out violence. We do not seek confrontation and aggression in situations of violence that we might get ourselves into. Doesn't mean we can't defend ourselves, but it means we don't seek out these things. We don't put ourselves in situations where these sorts of encounters might happen, and we don't, for our part, contribute to them. Sometimes it's unavoidable, and we need to be prepared and willing and able to do what needs to be done in those situations. But as so much as depends upon us, for our part, we seek to live in a nonviolent way. Satya, truthfulness, to conduct ourselves with honesty and integrity in all things, toward others, toward ourselves, all of our thoughts, our deeds, and our words. Asteya, which is non-stealing, to not take that which belongs to others. Brahmacharya, which is one of the big problems that we have with modern yogic practice and the way it's marketed, and this is sexual control. Often translated as just abstinence, but it's not total abstinence. It's not abstinence from sexual practice. It is sexual control. It is not being obsessed with, not overusing, being moderate, being controlled, being modest, and being pure in our sexual conduct. Aparigraha, which is non-accumulation, which is we can think of as just not amassing to yourself more than what you need or what you're going to use, not hoarding. So these are the yamas. Then we have the niyamas, which really are our relations inwardly. While the yamas are our outward relations, the niyamas are our inward relations. Shaucha, which is our inner and outer cleanliness, cleanliness of body, cleanliness of mind. This deals with our physical hygiene, our diet, our lifestyle, our health, our exercise, taking care of our bodies, keeping them clean, keeping them pure. And this goes along with the sexual control, the ability to keep ourselves with integrity and cleanliness and purity. Just as we do physically, we do mentally. We take care of our mind, our thoughts. We don't allow our thoughts to become polluted. We focus on that which is good, pure, and humble, and that which will facilitate our path toward union with the divine. Santosha, which is contentment, being content with what we have. This pairs with aparigraha, non-accumulation, not hoarding things, not being covetous of things around us, but simply being content and joyous with that which we've been given, that which we've earned, that which we have. Tapas, which is penance, living with humility, living a life of contemplation, meditation. Svadhyaya, which is self-study, self-inquiry, analyzing ourselves, understanding the origins of our thoughts and our actions and the way that we are. Studying ourselves so that we can notice and rectify things that are not serving us, things that are incorrect in our path, in our inner self. And Ishvara Pranidhana, which is surrender to higher power, acknowledging that we are a part of a greater whole, not being narcissistic, self-glorifying, self-worshiping, but acknowledging that we are here in harmony with all of creation, a part of the divine order. So these are the yamas and the niyamas, the ethical foundations to begin practice. We have to have these in place so that we can rightly conduct ourselves in our practice and that we can head toward the right direction as we begin the actual techniques. These are very important and should not be overlooked or cast aside as irrelevant, as many people do in modern practice. If we don't have this foundation of proper ethics and morals, we're not going to get where we're trying to go with our actual techniques that we employ. Because we'll be too bogged down in the nonsense that we're supposedly trying to get away from with yoga, the path of union with the divine. You can't become in union with the divine if you're still bogged down in all of these sins and vices, as we would say from a Christian perspective. Then we have the most famous two, asana and pranayama, the postures and the breath. The postures prepare the body, and the breath awakens the energy. And together they create a vessel through which awareness can arise. Now the posture and the breath are what most people think yoga is. And here I want to point out it's just 2 of the 8 limbs that form true yoga. The posture and breath is not yoga proper. It is designed to prepare the vessel so that you can do yoga. So it's to get you ready to do yoga. It's not yoga itself. It's a part of it, but not the whole. Asana is a steady and comfortable seat, strengthening and preparing the body, opening the vessels of the body so that the energy can flow harmoniously. And the pranayama, the regulation of the life force, the breath, the prana, this creates the foundation for meditation and energy refinement. And I talk about this a lot in reference to qigong, Tai Chi practice, the Chinese Taoist martial arts. You cannot truly and effectively practice these things unless you have a vessel that's capable of carrying the energy that you're supposedly going to cultivate. And this is a big problem that Tai Chi and Qigong practitioners have, is their bodies are too weak. They don't take care of their bodies and train their bodies well enough to be able to be a vessel for the energy. If you're going to cultivate high levels of energy, this becomes increasingly important as you get into deeper practices. But if you're going to cultivate high levels of energy, you've got to have a vessel that can contain it. Otherwise, you can create all sorts of imbalances that can lead to serious complications if not corrected. So the asana and pranayama practice is to prepare the vessel. Once we've cleansed it with the yamas and the niyamas, we prepare it with asana and pranayama. Beyond that, we go to the inner limbs. Well, the first 4 limbs prepare the vessel. The second 4 limbs are where we get into actual meditation proper. Beyond body and breath lies stillness. In this silence, the yogi sees the true self reflected in the clear mirror of the mind. And this is where we get into true yoga. Pratyahara, which is drawing the senses inward. In this practice, we bring our senses away from the external environment and put it into the body, becoming aware of the sensations and the sounds and the functions, everything that's going on in the body. Dharana is where we take that concentration and focus it down ever smaller. Jhana is where we get to meditate. We approach the gates of meditation, and then samadhi, meditation proper, is where we absorb into the unity. And this is proper meditation, and true yoga, which are one and the same in this sense. We reach this point where we are in unity with the Tao, or the divine, or the higher self, however, whatever terminology you want to use for it. Here we can see this is not, as I said, narcissistically glorifying the self that we have here in our society, in our worldly affairs. This is a return to the true and pure self of the soul. And we must not confuse those two if we're going to practice properly and get real results from our practice. So some of the traditional paths of yoga. There are many different systems of yoga. Uh, they all blend together, just like the different styles of, the different systems of qigong, where we have scholarly qigong, medical qigong, martial qigong, spiritual qigong. They're all different focuses, but they all blend together as well and overlap. Same thing with the yogic paths. Different temperaments will align more or less to different paths, but when practiced properly, they all lead to the same place. It's freedom, peace, and inner union. Here again, freedom. I can't stress this enough just because of how badly this is misinterpreted and misused in modern practice. But freedom and peace and union, we're not talking about freedom to be whoever you want and live however you want to live. We're talking about freedom from the desire to do those things. Totally antithetical to how so many people misuse spiritual practice in the modern age. We have, to look at some of the paths here, we have paths that focus on knowledge, insight, sort of similar to the scholarly path of qigong, which practices self-inquiry and study. We have paths that focus on devotion and surrender, chanting, prayer, and worship, more of a religious lean on it. We have paths that focus on karma, selfless action, serving without attachment. We have Raja and Hatha, which is meditation, discipline, which uses the asanas, breath, and inner alchemy to develop the self. But each of these paths are methods of yoga and can all work in harmony with each other. Hatha and Kundalini yoga are two of the most well-known varieties. Hatha yoga unites sun and moon, strength and softness, yin and yang, as we would say in the Chinese system. Kundalini focuses more on the Kundalini, the serpent power, rising up the spine, awakening the chakras toward liberation in this way. So Hatha focuses on a balance of opposites, using asana, pranayama, bandhas, which are specific muscular locks in the body that are used to compress and focus energy, and mudras, which are the famous, hand seals that are done to channel energy through the body. Hatha focuses on a blend of all these things. Kundalini has all of that, but again, more of a focus on specifically the serpent energy, this energy up the spine, which deals with awakening and maturing the chakras, which are another totally misunderstood system. Chakras are psycho-emotional centers of growth and maturation. Each one represents different aspects of our psycho-emotional self that we work through. As a healthy human being, we will grow naturally through each of these and become better, more mature individuals, ideally. There again, I could give a whole lecture on that. But these are the ideas behind some of the most well-known systems of yoga. So here we get to modern yoga versus traditional practice. What are some of the main differences? Today, yoga wears many faces, yet the heart of yoga beats quietly beneath the surface, awaiting rediscovery. There are many different things that are called yoga today, or passed off as, or sold as yoga. Some better, some worse. But overall, the goal of traditional yoga is liberation, or moksha, the liberation from attachments in this world, identifications in this world. Our modern society is obsessed with identity politics. This is one of the first things you have to drop if you're going to progress in the true path. This is one of the things we're trying to be free from. Don't attach to it. Liberation is the goal of traditional yoga. Modern yoga focuses mostly on health and relaxation, which is fine. Just as we've talked about with qigong in the past. If you just want to focus to get good exercise out of it, there are wonderful, profound health benefits that can be gained just from that. Some of the focus of traditional yoga is on breath, ethics, and meditation. Modern yoga is on postures, fitness, and flexibility. Context, spiritual discipline versus commercial practice. In traditional yoga, the teacher is a guru, the spiritual guide, whereas in modern yoga, it's really just a coach. Both of these paths can be done correctly or incorrectly, and both can have benefits and downfalls, depending on how they're practiced. So yoga and Taoist qigong have some parallels. Again, the Taoist qigong is more what we focus on here at Wholeo Awakening and Thunder Dragon Neigong. But the Taoist qigong, like Taoist qigong, yoga refines the subtle body, breath becomes the bridge, and stillness becomes the door. A lot of these terms are interchangeable. We're doing similar things, like with breath. Qi and prana can be used interchangeably this way. We both focus on energy centers, the dantians and the chakras, which are not the same thing, but they are both energy centers that are focused on. Stillness, Zhuang versus jhana, this idea of stilling oneself in meditation, and union with the Tao or the Brahman, depending on what you want to call it in your system. So why practice yoga? To return home to ourselves, our true selves, free from all the attachments and distractions of the world. To quiet the mind, to open the heart, to touch the timeless, to promote inner clarity and peace, vitality and strength, to awaken to presence, and to connect to the sacred. This is the practice of true yoga, freeing oneself, disciplining oneself, which no one likes, discipline oneself to be able to live life but not be attached to it, to be grateful, humble, joyous, content, pure, to be a blessing to those around, and a person that can be upright in all of our ways. This is the true goal of yoga, the path of yoga. Yoga is not something we master. It's something we live. It's a lifelong unfolding of presence, wisdom, and joy. Patanjali says, yoga is the cessation of the fluctuations of the mind. It's to be at peace, to reach tranquility, to live a focused and humble life. So this is a quick run through of yoga. Of course, it's a huge topic. We will get into some more videos talking more in depth about some of these things. But for now, be sure and drop your comments below if you have anything you want to say or questions you want to ask. I'll try to get to those. And again, check out the links and our other material that's available there. So until next time, take care and we'll see you again.